Dehexen, Dehexen, or the colors of magic. When I first thought of this story for the Legend of Season's End, and then when I built my world around my story, and then my story around my world, and it kept getting deeper and deeper, I realized I needed a magic system that was just as colorful and artistic as the world that I imagined. And so I thought, what if art is magic, just like it is in our world? And I started connecting all these dots. And for instance, I was thinking of how much I loved symphonic music and orchestral music, and this started with my love for Fantasia as a little child. And I still remember, the scenes with the dinosaurs and the epic music playing in the background, and Mickey Mouse with all the brooms hauling water with magic. And it just instilled in me such a wonder for the colors and the music. And ever since, I've pretty much exclusively listened to symphonic and orchestral type music when working, because it doesn't put words in my head when I'm writing. So I got to thinking, okay, what if art makes magic, and magic is art? And I was thinking of orchestras, and I was trying to imagine how an orchestra would be applied pragmatically in the real world. And I was imagining each note produced a different color based on its sound or its frequency. And I just imagined all of these musicians creating these colors from their instruments. And the conductor wasn't just up there timing. The conductor does a lot, and it may not look like it during a show or if you're not familiar. But a lot of the work is put in before the show happens. And so it's not that the orchestra couldn't play without him, but he's just there to make sure that everyone's literally on the same musical page, right? And I was just thinking, what if he's more than a conductor, though? What if he is just a powerful musician who's able to weave all of these colors from the music into these spheres of light? And, in peacetime, the orchestras might make fireworks or do heavy building construction projects or other useful means. But during war, I just was imagining these orchestras lined up behind all of the infantry and archers, and these conductors are, tapping their wands nervously, and then they raise their wands, and the music starts, and the color starts, and they wave and weave these spheres of light and magic, and they throw them across the battlefield. It kind of grew from there. So I was thinking, I think we all get frustrated when we watch Revolutionary War, Civil War movies or media, and you see these little boys on the drums, and you're thinking, who the hell would send a little boy with drums into freaking battle? Or you see a guy just holding a flag, and you say, man, I would not want to be the dude with a flag charging at a bunch of cannons and guns. So I was thinking, what if those were magical in some way? What if the flag really is as powerful as the holder? And there's a reason why there was a flag bearer, and there's a reason why there were drummers. In Roman times, for instance, the eagle of the legion was not allowed to be captured or to fall, and there was so much honor in keeping that eagle high. And so I just wondered, maybe that is a form of magic in itself. And so I was imagining, the flag bearer carries a big, sound shield or a big energy shield, like a dome around him, and it protects the advancing infantry. And it takes a ton of strength to resist the arrows or spells that are incoming or bouncing off. And the drum line, the color guard, all of these things of music just seem to play right into this idea of, art is magic. Dancing and music is magic in itself. If you're at a celebration, or even just on the street, and you hear music playing, everyone starts tapping to the same beat. Everyone gets on that same rhythm and frequency. And so I think music is really a true connector because it goes down to the most basic elements of the universe, just those frequencies, and just connecting on one page. So I got deeper and deeper, and essentially I just thought literally everything in art or craft could be magic. Dancing, singing, writing, scribing, runing, engraving. Every soldier has a war dance, and every style of war is its own style of dance. And there's water dancers, there's sand dancers. So it's really limitless what you can do with it. And when I started, looking more into how I would make my magic system, I knew it had to be colors and the colors of magic. And it's not, that's not new. It's not new to have, red is fire, green is life, whatever, blue is water. Obviously, that's been done and overdone a million times, and I think there's a reason for it. It makes sense to us. Even scientists, when they're describing the valence, the three valence, they describe them as colors, and they explain how those three colors together form light, and that's the additive mixing of light and color. And so I just knew it had to be based on color and light theory and color theory, particle physics, all of these things that I'm fascinated by, and which have real grounding. Frequency has a real grounding. Anti-particles and antimatter and dark energy and dark matter. All of these things are real and mysterious and still worth mythology and mythologizing. And they're some of the last unknowns that we can write about. We know that there weren't just two humans created and they gave birth to a bunch of siblings that all gave birth with each other to a bunch of cities. And, forget China and forget India, all the way across the world. We don't need to talk about those places. So obviously, like, as we've discovered more and more, the ancient narratives have fallen from grace, if you will, as a narrative factual account. But I think my love of philosophy and mythology and ancient history and ancient herstory is not that it's a true narrative. It's the magic that so many, perhaps false narratives, are connected, and we all have the same human experience. So there's a reason why three is so important across the world. And the flower of life can be found across the world, and obviously the Indo-Europeans had a large role in spreading similar myth and similar ideas and similar ways of life. And I cover all of that in the Lost Stories. But the magic system, Hexen, is based on the colors, the hex colors of the color system. And Hexen in German also means to bewitch and has a lot of associations with witch and magic. And so the colors of magic is literally the hexes of the hexes. It kind of exploded from there. So I do keep the general elemental idea where colors are tied to elements. So I'm not reinventing the wheel in any way. I think what my Hexen's all about is, if anyone else was disappointed that they didn't get a letter from Hogwarts as a kid as I was, because I would have freaking killed it at wizarding school. And I'm sure whoever's listening to this probably would have excelled mightily, like Hermione as well. I have no doubt. So, I think if we had all had the option to take a potions class in middle school as an elective, that would have probably been one of the most popular classes. So I'm offering both elementary, high school, and university PhD level courses, essentially, in all of the things that I never got to learn at Hogwarts or in any other kind of fantasy world. Another inspiration for my book has been Lord of the Rings. And whereas I love Lord of the Rings and have no complaints, and I think the soft magic system in Lord of the Rings is excellent, I've always really loved hard magic systems because I love part of my love for fantasy or for science fiction is the explanation. Like, how well can you explain something? How much work did you put into it? My goal is to not only create a magical and fun and easy to learn and easy to comprehend basic system of colors of magic, but I also want to go as deep as possible and let others, collaborate or learn alongside or learn from all of these fascinating ideas that I've been studying for a long time, but especially lately as I've been working on this. And color theory, for one, has always been fascinating to me. I think as kids, we're always taught subtractive color theory because it's how you mix colors with paint. And so if you've taken an art class as a kid, or if you had the privilege or the luxury to get that kind of learning, um, those colors are yellow, blue, and red. And red and yellow, of course, make orange, and blue and yellow make green, and blue and red make purple. And that was how I always knew colors. And of course, once the digital age really picked up, you figure out there's CMYK and there's light and it's different, and that's additive mixing compared to subtractive mixing. And so all of this led to my having to create two different magic systems for the same world in order to encapsulate both the additive and the subtractive. And so, part of it is the inner light, and that's the light we give out to the world, and it's selfless or elfless magic. And that would be the additive, creating white out of the three primary colors. And then there's also, real world magic in my world of Frostheim. And that's because the gods in my mythology sowed magic and sowed color and sowed wonder into the world itself in order to fulfill a prophecy. And I believe we have magic and we experience magic every day here on Earth. I just don't think we see the color, so we forget that it exists. But I wonder if our ancients were as keen to the wonders of magic that we have here as I have become. Especially when I was living in a cabin in Alaska off grid with just an axe and a handsaw and my dog. The solitude and the peace and the daily, monotonous grind gives you a real appreciation for all I can explain is the spirit in things. And before, the Indo-European religions and really influenced the Mediterranean, and before the Egyptian and Near Eastern and Sumerian and Akkadian and Persian, religions all took off, animism and this idea that everything had a spirit was really prevalent, perhaps in all humans, but it certainly seemed to predate our notions of a hierarchy of things. And the hierarchy makes sense to explain, the hierarchies that developed when we, became civilized, so to say, with domestication of animals and with the domestication of crops and the sedentary lifestyle of agriculture, pastoral, or a mix. But before there was a hierarchy, there was just life, and everything came from Mother Earth and returned to Mother Earth, and everything had a spirit. That's really the feeling I got when this book idea and all of these magic and wild and crazy ideas were coming to me. I was, literally worshiping fire, because without fire, I'd be dead every single day. I used fire to melt snow for my drinking water and cooking water and cleaning water. I used fire to heat my cabin at night and in the evening, as much wood as I had. And the fire was beautiful, and it was sustaining, and it just danced in my wood stove. And I remember just staring into the fire for hours on end while I cuddled and petted my dog. my old man, 13 years old. He was Vader. I had that experience of what our ancients must have felt, surviving with the earth and part of the earth, and being beholden to the earth, just knowing any day if she doesn't provide, you die. So that was a huge influence on why I kept the elemental aspects of this magic system. And so, of course, for me, red is fire, and green is leaf, and blue is water. Yellow is elf or elfless. And so you have all these colors that represent things as a spirit would represent the earth. But it also goes into the whole, how do you mix colors? How do you mix your own light with the light of the world? How do colors interact with each other? If a red and a blue spell connected, would they make purple or violet? And what's the difference? If red and red combine, what does that make? I had just all of these questions. And so this was the start of my magic system, The Colors of Magic. And it's still a work in progress, but I'm hoping to have more both visuals and videos and information up about it. And I'm working on getting a website up where people can not only learn the colors of magic, but also interact with fun games and mixing brews and mixing colors and mixing magics. But more information's to come, and for anyone who's interested in more reading material, audio, video, I'm constantly creating and recording and publishing, and you can visit my Patreon at patreon.com/swornword, SWORNWORD, and that's where most of my content will be published for the next few years as I roll it out. And I'm hoping this will eventually be a TV series, an animated TV series, which at first it was meant to be a series of novels, but with how much visual and sound is involved, I determined I wanted to include a more multimedia approach. But let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Tell me what you're interested to hear more in, whether it's the magic system or the world or the chaotic creatures or the good-willed creatures, whether it's the womb folk or the histories of Earth and the Amazons and Trojans. I have all of that and more. So stay tuned and subscribe and like, and thanks again for visiting Frostheim. May you die with valor and dine in Valhalla.